Good day and welcome to the State. Thank you for choosing us. The show is brought to you by Christian Service University, located in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. My name is Gabriel 𝗟𝗓𝗡 Ankrah. I'll be back with the details. Please stay with me.
The Christian Service University, a fully chartered private university in Ghana, is inviting applications for admission. Undergraduate programs include BSc Nursing and Midwifery, Computer Science, Information Technology, Bachelor of Business Administration, BA Communication Studies, Planning and Social Development, and Theology with Administration. Postgraduate programs include MSc in Accounting and Finance, Monitoring and Evaluation, Corporate Planning and Governance. We have MA MPhil Communication Studies, MA Christian Ministry with Management, Event Management, MPhil English and Mathematics Education. With quality, faculty and state-of-the-art facilities, we blend academic work with entrepreneurial mindset in all our programs. For more information, please call 0246 275375, 0240 154825, or 0244 596603, or visit our website www.csuc.edu.gh. CSU is located at Odenaho Kwadaso on the Kumasi-Obuasi Road, 100 meters off Star Junction. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa.
And to make him better known. That's
Sorry, not sure.
Wake up to a purposeful day.
Get ready for a transformational morning experience.
Sorena Shrine is here to build our spirituality, mental and physical well-being.
Through positive, inspiring actions and stories.
We bring you exciting activities and conversations that develop us as a people and as a nation.
We take a look at the trending issues in Ghana and the rest of the world.
And we also review the impacting stories from our local newspapers.
Every morning, we bring you stories of hope, change, and renewal.
We empower you through the Word of God and provoke you to live the purposeful life destined for you.
Join us, Anita Kwako
and the Reverend Ajika Vincent Agbamanya, Monday to Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. as we take you on an inspiring journey, live and exclusively on WTV.
You may also join us on Facebook at WTV Ghana and on YouTube at Wesleyan TV Ghana.
Sorry, not Shrine.
Wake up to a purposeful day.
Sorena Shrine is brought to you by
Danwell Insurance, Multi-Credit Savings and Loans,
and the Methodist University Ghana.
Welcome back. Let us do W Briefs. On W Briefs, what we do is to give you an executive summary of the topic for discussion for the day. Corruption is what we're looking at this afternoon, is what the conversation is centering around. Corruption is said to be the abuse of entrusted power or position to an individual, and it is usually used, or the individuals involved in the corruption use unethical or illegal means, and it consequently harms individual societies at large. In Ghana, some have said that, we can even say that globally, some have argued, or schools of thought have had it, that corruption is as old as Adam, and it permeates every facet of society. In Ghana, corruption is a major subject in virtually every cycle of elections, where all the political parties make commitments. They tell us what they are going to do to fight corruption in one form or the other. Over the years, various initiatives have been introduced by successive governments. We've had some of these initiatives to be promulgation of anti-corruption laws. You remember the Whistleblower Act 2006, Act 720. We've also had certain establishments like the Special Prosecutor's Office established, all in the fight against corruption. But how well have these interventions, these initiatives, enabling corruption in the bud? Afrobarometer. We've always had Afrobarometer report. Afrobarometer is a non-partisan pan-African research network, and they usually measure public opinions and beliefs on economy, politics, democracy, governance, etc. The Afrobarometer has released a report recently, and this report highlights the dwindling trust in state institutions so far as corruption is concerned. Dwindling trust in state institutions. We have some of these institutions, including the police, the presidency, tax officials, members of parliament, judiciary, the electoral commission. The survey reveals that Ghanaians' trust in these state institutions keep dwindling. Public perception regarding corruption over the period by the survey they did has increased by 74%. That these institutions that I've aforementioned are corrupt. 26% of people feel confident that they can report corruption without the fear of victimization. Ghana is not doing well. That is a big question. Ghana is not doing well in the fight against corruption. So we are asking that how best can we as a country ever fight corruption? Of the report and then give you the depth of what the report is saying and find out the solutions to it. Stay with me. I'll be back to introduce my guests. Back from the break. So on the stage this afternoon, the conversation is around corruption perception as revealed by Afrobarometer survey that it conducted recently. We are going to explore the issues. These listed state institutions that the public trust is dwindling over the period. 26% of the people said that they can confidently report or blow the whistle, as it were, without fear of victimization. We are exploring the issues and see this trust deficit that these institutions are having so far as corruption is concerned. And then we trust that we're going to give you the best of insight and in-depth into the subject matter with our experts who will join us in the conversation. The show is brought to us by Christian Service University. Christian Service University is an evangelical liberal arts institution established 50 years ago to train men and women with ethical values for transformational leadership in Africa. Admission for the 2024-2025 academic year is in progress for undergraduate and postgraduate programs. CSU offers academic and industry-driven programs in nursing, midwifery, business administration, communication, planning, and computer science. For more information, please contact our admission relations officers on 02462 75375, 0240 154 825, 0244-596603, or visit our website on www.csu.edu.gh. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa. CSU, the university of choice. So you are welcome, and just fasten your seatbelt as we delve into the subject matter of perception of corruption amongst these state institutions. We are very happy to have join us in the studio. It's not a strange face so far as issues of social concern are discussed on this network. Is in church parlance we say brother, but I think you will permit me to say Nicholas Taylor. Nicholas Taylor is a social analyst, and we also joined online by Edem Senano. Edem Senano is an anti-corruption campaigner, also a very known face and voice on the anti-campaign crusade. Gentlemen, welcome to the state.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Adam, we are back in your space again. Let me start with Adam online. This Afrobarometer report, does it surprise you? We're really going to look at what trust is, the trust issues that we keep having as it goes up. But for preliminary purposes and comments, does it come as a surprise?
No, it doesn't. Actually, the trend has been similar to previous years. Yes, which is dangerous because we appear to have stagnated over the last 3 Afrobarometers, and in some areas even declined. And the general historical data suggests that when you stagnated, the likelihood is you're going to have a major fall subsequently. So the data is not surprising. But on the other hand, it gives you the sense of we are a crisis waiting to happen. Because if everybody says that we don't trust the core architectural institutions of good governance, but we rather trust religious bodies, CSOs, and the military, what it is saying is that we are just keeping our peace because it allows us to go do our work. But the minute there is a major fire, you will find that democracy may topple over. So it's a quiet before a storm, and it means that we need to take this very seriously.
Okay, let me come to you, Nicholas. Nicholas, just like Adam said, this report, does it come to you as a surprise?
Well, thank you very much. I believe it's not a surprise at all, because we are all in a country, we've been interacting with people, we go into institutions, and most of the things that came out of the report are things that people talk about almost every time. And so I was not surprised when the report came out painting this kind of picture. But as the senior officer indicated, these are not good trends for us. As a developing country, a country that wants to use our little resources to develop ourselves, this kind of trend is not good. And if in corruption, if you are stagnating for a long time, the possibility is that you may draw back. And unless we have serious institutional changes, is going to affect our productivity.
Okay, Adam, let me come back to you. So people have argued that matters of trust, these are intangibles. How do you measure them? And in such surveys, the question is always like, how much do you trust? These have always been the technical question that they used to elicit responses from their respondents. How much trust do you have in these institutions, as it were? What are the indicators of trust? What will show that you trust an institution?
Well, typically there will be a working definition for the data collection. So it will be something like, how much confidence or faith do you have that they will deliver on their responsibility? I can very well imagine, since I do consulting and research myself, usually you will have an operational definition. So, because quite often you meet people who are not literate in English, but they are perfectly intelligent in the local language. So you need to break it down to the local language. Simply put, would just be, how much faith or confidence do you have that this institution can deliver on its responsibility? So, so if it's police, the question is, how much confidence do you have that they will deliver on protecting you, keeping the peace, rather than being part of the problem of extorting from you, etc. So there will be a working definition that allows the data collectors to make sense to the audience that they are collecting the data from.
Let's look at the institutions that I've mentioned. Like Nicola said, we are all in the country, so these are institutions that we interact and relate with every now and then. You look at if you look at the data as the survey spanned from 2012 up to 2024. They did some of the and members of parliament. You realize that in 2022. The perception was that it was 27%. This time around, it is 24%. You see the change between 2022 and 2024, and it's a 3-point difference over the previous 2 years that they did the survey. What do the people look out for? Because in 2024, it was 49%. Fast forward, it is now 24%. 49% then. Somebody will argue that even that one was below 50. 49% then comparatively is higher than what we have now. What will people look for to trust the legislature? So we might be dealing with some of the institutions as have been listed. Let's look at the parliament.
Well, I mean, parliament is a house of laws. It's a place where the legislators meet to create the laws, craft them, pass them, so that they benefit the people. Anyone assessing parliament would therefore be looking at what laws have they passed, how has it benefited us. Truth be told, you probably will be using the indices of how well your livelihood has fared over the period. So if I'm a teacher, has parliament passed any laws that actually benefited me, got me to progress, allowed me better salaries, less taxes? Do I know of any law that actually allowed me to get good roads, more regular water, the kind of things that everyday basic facilities, services that allow us to go about what we should do for ourselves and our families? And I'm quite sure they're saying that, look, over the last 2-4 years, we haven't seen anything substantive in terms of legislation either. And legislation is not static, it is dynamic. So the expectation is anyone who understands that laws are not fixed in concrete, but they can be reviewed and improved, will be asking themselves, so what has happened in terms of improving laws, or which new laws have been put in place that have benefited me? And if they can't find anything tangible except the laws that seem to be more punitive or raising more taxes, they definitely are going to have people having less confidence in the legislator. Not too surprised. People will look at their own personal circumstances, the circumstances of their families, and then begin to make that assessment and then draw their conclusion.
Okay, Nicholas, back to you in the studio.
Right.
The perception on parliament.
Correct.
Legislature.
Thank you very much. I think just a little one. Institutional trust is a very important aspect of the life of the institution and the life of the country. Even our own lives, we say that if trust is broken, thank you is nothing. So if I don't trust you to do what I expect you to do, I don't see you as anybody. If your child is coming home to collect the school fees and you know that, oh, when I go, my father is going to give it to me, that confidence is there. So if we have a country where institutional trust is falling down, the rate at which it's going, it's very serious. And especially when we have institutions like parliament, and people don't seem to have confidence in parliament, it's a very dangerous matter, because they are making the laws for us. They are also the people who are expected to be the representatives of the people. Because if you look at the judiciary, they are normally appointed. If you look at the president, yes, they are elected by the people. But when we talk about parliament, they are the real representative of the people. So if the people who have elected you, the people who have the trust to put you there, now say that our confidence in you is waning, then it's a very big challenge, because we know that they are not doing what is expected of them. That should give us the productivity that we expect of parliament. When it happens like that, then we are heading towards danger. So I think it's a very bad trend that we are seeing, to the extent that, as you said, from 54%, now we are looking at 42%, and it's not good for us. We expect an increase in the confidence we have for them, and not a decrease.
A decrease, as it has been reported. Yeah. You see, so with the
and let me just add.
Yeah, please do.
Can I add a bit to the parliament bit? Let's not forget that parliament also, by the nature of the three arms of government, is supposed to provide some oversight to the executive.
Exactly the point I was coming to.
So when we find that the executive is not executing things and Parliament is not able to provide that oversight, because really the minister for whichever sector should be called, ask questions, giving feedback, and that minister ought to be going to take remedial actions that then improve the lot of Ghanaians. So if citizens recognize that that oversight is not happening, probably because Parliament itself is compromised, because executive is taking a lot of ministers and deputy ministers from them, and because they are now part of the executive by association, they are not willing to raise their voices, to criticize, and to ensure that things that are not going right are corrected. So there's all those factors that citizens looking at Parliament will say, listen, we don't see that the laws are being done to favor us. We are not seeing that the old laws are being reviewed to benefit us. We don't see that the oversight for the executive that will ensure that the executive are taking the right steps are not, they don't just have an over-bloated resource envelope where they are spending more, borrowing more, and we don't see the change in our lives. These are very key things that I'm sure citizens are looking at when they draw the conclusion of our Parliament.
Great. And let's, because as we sit now, we as citizens, we have, should I say, a debacle around our necks so far as legislative and the executive arms of government are concerned. We've been monitoring the process at the Supreme Court because Parliament is a suspended sine die and all that. Will you say, maybe not too close to the Afrobarometer findings, that the nature of the Parliament that we had in the 8th Parliament, what we call hung Parliament, has played a role in this confidence dwindling, especially the legislative processes and the oversight responsibility over the executive?
Well, yes, I think that what it means is that, because the numbers are so close, there have been many more times when one group in Parliament took a position against a particular policy or law, the parliamentary processes were stalled, and we did not get to the end the way we ordinarily would have had when you had an absolute majority versus a minority. So definitely the hang numbers have contributed to the steaming stalemate on some issues, and we still see it playing out right now. Where I'm actually in Parliament, parked in the Parliament, because today was open day for governance. For the first time, Parliament has done this, so I was here to join them and go around, see them open up Parliament for citizens. And the event hasn't finished. It's supposed to end at 3, so I had to leave them and come and sit in my car. And one of the questions I asked them was, so what is the state of the speaker's case? And they said, oh, they are still in court right now. So the lawyers are in court, vacate this thing that the Supreme Court has placed on them, the embargo the Supreme Court has placed on them. We have Parliament trying to raise it. And all of these have to deal with the numbers issues that you have just highlighted. So yes, absolutely, it has had impact on the processes and the results and outcomes that Parliament has provided under the 8th Parliament.
So maybe a last one on the Parliament, and we'll move to the other state institution. Is the aspect of accountability to constituents. We know some parliamentarians, unless they say we are no longer interested in going to Parliament on your behalf, the seats are more or less entrenched. They are glued to the seats. The citizens will always vote for them, because over the weekends they are with them at the funerals, at the naming ceremony, at the football. They are people's people, if I could say that. So some of these things, could we also say that the accountability bit, the citizens are not seeing it? That is how come they will have such a gloomy picture of the legislature.
Well, you know that that's part of the disconnect in our architecture. Even though we vote within constituencies for MPs, the MPs are not responsible for the developmental agenda of the area, except for the MPs Common Fund, which can be allocated to help in some areas. So there's not a direct correlation between what the constituents feel on the ground with what their MP does. However, I'm clear in my mind that if Parliament, in passing its laws, was very mindful of the nature of the services and has the impact on the livelihoods of individual citizens, and were to highlight that this law, we are passing it because we want to ensure that water is available 24/7 or is not polluted, or we are passing this law because we feel like citizens are taxed and therefore they need a higher net income to be able to take care of school fees, etc., etc. The intentionality behind the laws and the articulation of it by Parliament itself will stick in the minds of citizens. And when it comes to such assessment, they will say, oh, we have a lot of confidence, because over and over again, we see that they are prioritizing the issues in terms of laws that impact us in a way that we are comfortable and our families can be comfortable. Yeah. So there's definitely a correlation. What are the laws that Parliament has focused on? How do these connect with the day-to-day lives of citizens? Exactly. How have they prioritized the concerns of citizens? And how have they been seen to speak up when Ghanaians have been upset about specific issues? Those are things that I'm sure will cut across all the arms of government, and how citizens will see whether this arm of government is actually serious about meeting the need. One of the things we keep forgetting is that all government, as Article 1.1 says, government exists because of the people. They exist to promote the welfare of the people at any given time. We repose sovereignty in government, but I don't think that the arms of government necessarily understand that ultimately they are there to serve the people's interest.
Rightly so, rightly so. Let me come to you, Nicholas, in the studio. Let's look at opposition political parties. We might not be spending much time on them because they are fighting for power to control our resources. So the data reveals that as at 2024, 54%. That was the perception. The 2024, it is doing 28%. The opposition that is supposed to hold the ruling government in check, and in this sense, realize that their function is not being really appreciated by the citizenry.
Well, thank you very much. Ideally, the expectation is that if we have an opposition that will be able to put the government on its toes and ensure that things are done right, people will have that confidence in them. Now, from what we are seeing from the survey, it means that people don't even have that confidence in the opposition playing that oversight role or the checking role. And when you have such a situation, it means that the government may always have a field day trying to do what they want to do. As the senior said, the nature of the Parliament now is expected that, laws that are not favorable to the country will not just be put through just like that. And so we are always supposed to have a situation where if a law is to be passed, they will all look at a law that will be beneficial to this country. If it's a tax that they are going to be passed, they are going to look at it. But sometimes we see that they become overly partisan. And therefore, the benefit that we need to get from the hung nature of the Parliament, we have not been able to derive fully the benefit of that. And so if the opposition parties that we want them to play the role of ensuring that the government do the right thing is also not playing that role, then we have a challenge. The government is not doing the right thing, opposition is not trying to put on its role, then it means that we are in a limbo. But I believe that as an opposition, they should give us that kind of ability for all of us to see that, yes, for doing this, we know you can do this. And then the confidence keeps rising. But if the confidence is not even rising in the opposition, confidence is not rising in the government in power, then we have a very, very, very big problem at hand that we need to work at.
You touched a bit on it because the ruling government, the confidence too is not there by the report that has been shown that it's also dwindling. It's the confidence is not there. Viewers, if you are just joining us, you are still on the state, and this afternoon we are looking at the report. We are exploring the issues in the report released by Afrobarometer that highlights dwindling confidence of the citizenry in state institutions, major state institutions. And we've mentioned that in the cycle of elections in this year, virtually all political parties commit to fighting corruption. But if corruption is perceived to more or less has bathed these institutions, it's a cause for worrying. Some would say it's a reputational crisis as we have them. We've looked at the parliament, the legislature. We've also looked at the opposition party, and then the ruling party regarding perception of corruption of the people on them. Let me come back to you, Adam. Let's look at the president. Let's look at the president. We'll touch on the president a bit. You know, the president, as at 2012, it was 56%. 2024, it is hovering around 28%. From 56 to 28, we are having about a difference of about 29. The people elect their president, and yet, as the president takes over to lead them, the confidence is dwindling.
Yes, I think the presidency, and there was another place, the data was the most staggering. The decline from the last Afrobarometer report was very high. And I think that, again, it's simply the day-to-day assessment of citizens in terms of what they think the presidency ought to be doing, that they are not getting probably feedback that certain actions are happening. And let me just juxtapose that. You know, we had the SNIT hotels thing, and until organized labor stepped in, we did not seem to have made much progress. Recently, we've had Galamsey as well. In my mind, these are opportunities where the presidency could have stepped in and said, you know what, we see the trajectory of the citizens' view on this matter, and we respect it, and therefore we are going to align with it. And I think that those are the moments we are losing. We are not seizing those very opportune events to begin to demonstrate that we recognize that the principal is the citizen and we are the agents. And when the principal speaks, we need to pay attention. Let me take a step back to make a connection in this regard. You were just talking about the opposition party and how the report suggested that even confidence in the opposition party's capacity to hold accountable the ruling party is going down. I remember, I don't have the document in front of me, but as part of this Afrobarometer report, because I was at the launch and a panelist, one of the data there was that citizens expected greater collaboration after elections. There was a bar chart that showed that the citizens were asking for greater collaboration. My understanding of that is that when, for example, the opposition wants to criticize government, there ought to be points at which where you are able to clearly state that this policy or law by government is a good one. It shouldn't be that every single thing is a no-go area. And to that extent, citizens go away thinking that you are just taking a partisan political position, and therefore, when it is actually in the best interest of citizens, we will not get the outcomes that benefit us. Very important point. And I think it's the same thing here, that, look, you should be able to discern when citizens think that this policy of yours or this action of yours is not in our interest. We think that this policy you want to put in place or this law will not work. Put it aside. Don't try and steamroll it. And as it were, walk over the sentiments and the sensitivities of Ghanaians and think that you can get through with it.
Exactly. A case in
That's
point.
where we are finding ourselves.
A case in point, Adam, is a campaign and fight against Galamsey. You realize that everybody in the nation, and you see the posture and attitude of the executive.
It's been very unfortunate. And so I think that has fed into the very sharp decline in confidence within the presidency. And I don't know whether they are paying attention to the data, because if they did, it should serve as a learning point as we move forward so that things are done much better.
I'll come to Nicholas in the studio briefly. But let's before I come to Nicholas, let's touch on the police. Let's look at Ghana police. We thought Dampare was doing magic with his approaches, that people were having confidence and falling in love with the police. But I realized that the police is not doing that good.
Yes, unfortunate. I don't know whether the police. One of my recommendations was that I'm looking forward to a president who instruct his heads of institutions that engage with civil society, engage with CDD, engage with GII around these reports, and let them explain to you what the indicators and the triggers are, so that you can work at them. If we take the police, by and large, it's about the frequency of interaction between ordinary citizens and the police out there. And we know the units of the police that have regular engagement with citizens.
Yeah.
The way you ought to approach this is that you probably want what they call it. There's this mechanism where you have people, undercover agents, undercover chief executive. You go undercover and you test your own men on the ground, and you flash out any one of them who are eager to extort money or say, we're on the ground, what are you doing for us? You know, I think that by now the police should have engaged around these reports much more, understand which units are engaging the citizens and giving them this feedback. Make sure that those particular units are populated with citizens or personnel whose integrity are higher, have undercover units that will test their own officers to flash out those who are inclined to do the wrong thing. And you will find that the same citizens will begin to report that, oh, my experience in engaging this particular service has changed. So I just think that people are not taking these reports seriously enough. They are not trying to unpack and understand what is the root problem and trying to address it.
Address them. Great. Nicholas, you take me on break. But before that, let's look at the Electoral Commission.
Yes, I also got surprised with the Electoral Commission's performance. And I think that when we have institutions like that and the kind of perception about them go that way, then we have a challenge. Now, we have a lot of people who come together to work as electoral. We have temporary staff and the permanent staff. Sometimes during the elections, we have some conduct of the temporary staff that tend to affect the general image of the Electoral Commission. Then again, some of the decisions, some of the utterances, some of the things that they do will also fuel in the public perception that Electoral Commission is not being fair according to how they are going to operate. And so I believe that if there's one institution that the credibility, that the confidence in them have to go very high, then it should be the Electoral Commission, because we have to see them as a fair arbiter, people who are going to be fair to the rules and apply the law, so that when we have had elections, then everybody can know that, yes, everything has been done very well. Now, in the run-up to this particular election, the compilation of the result and some of these things, you have the opposition and the Electoral Commission always coming on head-on collision, which I think was not too good. There should have been more of collaboration, more of discussion, and how the two parties can work together to ensure that we move forward in this direction. But seeing the kind of performance and the people's confidence in the Electoral Commission waning, I think it's not good enough for us, and we need to work at it for the Electoral Commission itself. What can they do to rebuild public confidence so that anything that comes out of the Electoral Commission, people will see that, yes, indeed, it's coming from a transparent arbiter.
You are still on the state, and we are exploring the issues in the Afrobarometer report on corruption and the dwindling perception of citizens in our state institution. Edem Senano has been with us on the line. He is an anti-corruption campaigner, and we have in the studio Nicholas Taylor, who is a social analyst, helping us to appreciate the report and then explain further what it means to the ordinary Ghanaian. I'll take a quick break. Please stay and don't go anywhere. I'll be back to look at the way forward.
The Christian Service University, a fully chartered private university in Ghana, is inviting applications for admission. Undergraduate programs include BSc Nursing and Midwifery, Computer Science, Information Technology, Bachelor of Business Administration, BA Communication Studies, Planning and Social Development, and Theology with Administration. Postgraduate programs include MSc in Accounting and Finance, Monitoring and Evaluation, Corporate Planning and Governance. We have MA MPhil Communication Studies, MA Christian Ministry with Management, Event Management, MPhil English and Mathematics Education. With quality, faculty and state-of-the-art facilities, we blend academic work with entrepreneurial mindset in all our programs. For more information, please call 0246 275375, 0240 154825, or 0244 596603, or visit our website www.csuc.edu.gh. CSU is located at Odenaho Kwadaso on the Kumasi Obuasi Road, 100 meters off Star Junction. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa.
And to make him better known. That's
Praise God, praise God. Christ in T, you respond, yeah, this year. I'm excited to announce to you, friends in the Lord, are you seeking for a platform where you can pray? Open baby up a soul bompire. Now ninyami edi in kita home. Bibi chiro so. And I'm maybe not the same kum. And you come home. Let's go into the prayer room on WTV every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. to meet seasoned ministers of God that God has raised to impact your life. Remember, John Wesley said, I have too much to do, therefore I spend several hours in prayer in able to do it. That is why we are calling upon you. Meet myself, Reverend Hosea Osei, and the Evangelism Missionary Renewal Directorate as we lead you into the prayer room where we encounter Christ. And I believe your life will never be the same. Call your friends or loved ones every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. where we will encounter Christ. God bless you. See you on our screens on WTV every Friday 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. God bless you.
Pray that each and every one of us.
Welcome back from the break. You are still on the state, and this afternoon we are interrogating the Afrobarometer's report on state institutions, the confidence of citizens dwindling in these institutions. We've looked at some of the institutions, we've looked at the parliament, we've looked at political parties, the opposition, we've also looked at the government in power, we have looked at the electoral commission, and then we are going at this time prefer solutions. Let's see what are the solutions that can prevail in our fight over corruption that is affecting our trust in our leadership and our institutions that we put in place. We have been joined in the conversation from the beginning by a corruption campaigner, Edem Senanu, and we have in the studio Nicholas Taylor, a social analyst, and we've been having a conversation around the subject. So continue to be with us, and as we delve further, especially when we get to what we can do to overcome this cancer called corruption. Let me begin with you from the break as we are back now. Edem, we're going to touch briefly on some of, because the institutions as have been listed, we cannot exhaust them on the show this afternoon. Let's look at the courts. We'll look at the courts briefly. The courts, they did 36% last year. 2022, 2024, they are doing 35%. One might say it is marginal, 1%, but one is still great. They could have maintained or improved upon it. Why are we losing trust in our court system?
Well, thank you. Most of the data collection would be done at the individual level, which means you are asking people, have you engaged with the court in the period under review? your engagement with the court, did you have confidence in what the court did? And how would you assess them? So it's really personal experiences of the courts and the services being provided by the courts or the judicial system that will lead to a certain conclusion. It tells you, therefore, that many citizens are not very comfortable with the results or the outcomes when they engage the judicial services. And it's a major cause for worry, because really at the end of the day, the final arbiter in any area of dispute should be the courts. And people must go to these courts with the confidence that they'll be fair, very meritorious judgments and rulings that allow them to believe that they were properly treated and all the issues of concern taken on board. I think that every drop suggests that there is much more work to be done in terms of making these services fair, transparent, and equitable in terms of the results that are extended to the citizens. And so many people are feeling like, look, some of us feel discriminated. Some of us feel like if we don't have money, we don't get a fair outcome. All of these will be feeding into the drop we have seen, and are things that must be taken on board by the judicial branch of government.
Taylor, you have a bite at the justice system?
Yes, I do. You know, whenever people have cases and you refer them that, oh, this matter, take it to court, the response of the people will be that, hey, how long is it going to take? Can I get money to hire a lawyer? Can I get money to maybe do something at the court and all that? So the general perception has been that our court system is normally for the highest bidder or someone who is capable of permeating the system. So if you have that kind of perception out there, and of course many of us think that if you have a case, why do you go to court? If there's a way you can discuss with the person and solve the matter out of court, is better. Because if you go there, going to the filing process and the kind of thing that you are going to meet there, well, are you going to get the needed justice that you need? And so that perception is not only for people in high authority, but for ordinary people, as Mr. Sanani said, who interact with judges, who interact with the court bailiffs and all that, and the issues that go on there. Sometimes you may even have a case, paneling the case or getting your case to be heard is another thing. The postponement and the postponement, sometimes people get frustrated and then they leave the matter just like that. But if we are going to have a case where our legal system, people cannot trust it, or people go there and they think that I may not even get the justice I need, then it means that we are also heading towards a very challenge. So I think that the court should find a way of also building the public trust. And as the institutional trust is very important for our development as a country. And if we have such cases where people think that, oh, even if I go to court, I will not get the kind of justice I want, I think it's very bad. And we need to work towards changing people's perception in the court.
In that area. Let me share this between you and Senator. But you start and I'll go to Adam on the line. Right. You realize that I am not too surprised. One state institution that has maintained the confidence level of the citizenry is the Ghana Armed Forces.
Sure.
Realize that they have even done 72% before, as in 2012. 2022, they did 67%. Okay. Now people have confidence in them. And then just 2024, it dropped by 1, that they are doing 65%. But even that, with this lowest that they are doing, they have maintained that trust at that above 50%.
Yes.
What does it mean?
It means a lot. You know, generally, if we mention the word military, people see them as people who are disciplined, people who can maintain the law, people who wouldn't respect that because you are small, I'll treat you this way, because you are big, I'll treat you this way. So people know that if we are talking about the military, then they have something good to offer. They are people who can hold the rules and then go by the rules without anybody influencing or intimidating them. And so even when there's a chaos somewhere and they say that the military is coming, the kind of effort people will make to put themselves in order is better than some other institutions coming. And so I'm not so surprised that they are maintaining that kind of image in the public domain. And I think that when you have public institutions like the military maintaining that kind of confidence is very good. And sometimes you will see people saying that, oh, democracy is not good for us, and sometimes they think that the military should even come in. Of course, there are few people who think that military rule is better than the civilian or democracy. Of course, the excesses are there, but for the military to maintain that kind of public image, I think it's a very good thing for us, and we need to commend them and ask them to continue.
Yes, let me come to you, Adam. Let me just share with you. I stayed in a region in Ghana settlement on an assignment some time ago. I did about 2 or 3 months there, and the local parlance, or the thing that they say, is that there are only 2 things they fear in Ghana. Only 2 things: rain and soldier. You know, they said they fear only rain and soldier. Apart from that, they don't even fear any state institution. Ghana Armed Forces seem to attract the trust and confidence. They have won it. What does it mean from where you sit?
I think it's a very, very profound statement. And often, if you're someone who's good at looking at the data and analyzing it, it can give you good appreciation of what Ghanaians are saying as the way forward. I think that my brother in the studio underscored it when he said discipline. And what they are telling us is that the other institutions of state, the other institutions within our governance architecture, are not showing the kind of discipline that gives us confidence that they will deliver on their mandate or anything given to them. Indirectly, they are telling you, what do you need to do to get your institutions or units or departments more disciplined? And if you're able to find that antidote and put it in place, we will give you a higher ranking. I think that we need to have some discussion, maybe a platform around the lack of disciplines in various units, ministries, departments, and what needs to be done to get discipline back. It is the same reason why we say when Ghanaians move to the UK or elsewhere, they will obey all the laws. They will deliver, and you will find that, is it the same Ghanaian that in Ghana we say cannot get you the result? So there is a systemic, endemic lack of discipline in many units. It's the reason why citizens will complain about, give them a certain, what they are saying is that the people we are engaging with, they don't show self-discipline when it comes to perhaps asking for money or trying to extort from you, etc. There is an answer that Ghanaians are giving us by ranking them as the highest institution that they repose their trust in. And I think that they are telling us that what is missing from the equation, what we need to focus on some more, is discipline. And if we can find how we integrate that into the next generation, into the current generation, we'll be getting better results when we run these research, models and try and get data for discussion.
I will just take your last thoughts there. Before then, let me just ask. But governments over the years, successive ones, have introduced certain interventions or initiatives. We realized that we had to set up the Special Prosecutor's Office as a tool, or as a machinery for fighting corruption. Again, there have been anti-corruption laws that have, but are we doing well with our policies, with our laws, and fighting corruption? Briefly.
Okay, so two things I would highlight as high level. I think that even though we have a lot of laws, we don't have a law that properly codifies the sanctions when people do the wrong thing. So we have general laws that say this is wrong, but specific sanctions, which is why we want the Conduct of Public Officers bill to be passed, where they have identified where public officers may do the wrong thing. What is a kind of punishment? You see, when you don't have any law that clearly says it is 5 years or 10 years, you can take a case to court and then it's going around in circles for years. That has been a major gap, that our laws so far have not been strictly tied, such that when conflict of interest, when when bribery, when extortion take place, there's a clear number of years, and then it serves as a deterrent. So that's a major gap we need to address in fine-tuning and tightening our legislative framework.
Wonderful. Thank you. The time will not permit us. And maybe we need to extend it and find more time to look at. But I just want you to tie with your remedies, solutions, as we conclude.
Yes, so the last one I'm going to say is that, look, the people who are being corrupt, whether in the police, whether in the public service, wherever you find them, they come out of us. So it tells us that the bigger problem is with us, our core values. I think that the challenge we have had over time is to recognize that values of honesty, integrity, and hard work, our social fabric has begun to dilute it, and they are no longer a core part of who we are as Ghanaians. And so we need to go back to the beginning and say that, look, from our educational systems, from our families, from the religious bodies, how do we instill these core values? So that when the person is on the street and has to engage a citizen, the fact that nobody is there, my superior is not there, will not lead me to still say, your boys on the ground, do something. You know, we have lost the core values that are essential for ensuring that corruption goes down. And we need to make a massive effort to reinstill these values in society so that we can see the change that we want to benefit from.
Yes, Nicholas, your final words.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that we have all identified that corruption is a canker and it's not going to help us. One thing I would suggest is institutional reform. When leaders are put in place, they have to look at the system, see where they can reform to suit the benefits of the people and to enhance productivity. The second one I will look at is depoliticization of our institutions. Ghana, it seems that every institution in this country, we have brought politics into it. And so technocrats who are supposed to work for the nation are doing like the bidding of their paymasters. And when that one happens, it doesn't give us confidence. And I think I also need to look at enforcement of our laws. You see, we have so many laws in Ghana, but the implementation and the enforcement has become a challenge. And that is why people think that they can do anything and go away with it. But I believe that if our laws are going to be implemented as they are, we are going to have a way out. And finally, I think automation of some activities will also help. Where there are so many human interface, the corruption is bound to fester. But if we have cases where people are interacting, things like ATMs and automated systems, it's difficult to permeate and then propagate or work on corruption activities. So I think those are some of the measures I would suggest that we put in place to minimize corruption in Ghana.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Edem Senano is an anti-corruption campaigner. Nicholas Taylor is a social analyst. And we have looked at corruption as presented by Afrobarometer. The president of America, Joe Biden, says that corruption is a cancer. It steals from the poor. It undermines institutions and it destroys societies. Let us fight it. Stop corruption and we can together fight it. I'm back on your screens on Friday. Please stay safe. Goodbye.